Can we just check on the team news first of all? Are Noble and Cresswell going to be okay for this weekend? And is it true that Antonio's rehab's going so well he could even play in a couple of weeks after the international break?
Well, I think that most of those players, Noble had a little bit of a rib injury which he picked up in training. I don't think Nobes will be available for the game, and Aaron Cresswell's been training, so I expect him to be fine. Mickey Antonio's doing much better, and we're hoping that he'll be back shortly.
That's great news for him to be back ahead of schedule, isn't it? Possibly.
Well, we never put any schedule on it, Jeremy. We didn't put any time scale on it whatsoever because Mickey's doing really well, and he's on the grass at the moment, so we're pleased.
Sebastien Haller has been called up by the Ivory Coast, having played for France under 21. I wonder what you make of that and whether you think international football could benefit him and West Ham as well.
Well, I'm thrilled that he's been selected for the national team. I'm not quite sure I agree with playing for one country under 21 and another at senior level, but I know that's the rules and you're allowed to do that nowadays. But I'm pleased for Seb. Seb's had a really good goal scoring record, and I'm sure that's why the Ivory Coast have chosen him.
What are your thoughts about Said Benrahma at the moment, David, and possibly starting in the Premier League? Is he ready for that, or does the form of Bowen and Fornals possibly dictate against that right now?
Well, we've got a squad of players now, good competition, which I'm really happy with, and Said's part of that. He got an introduction the other day there. I think he's beginning to get closer to match fitness. So we're pleased, and he's beginning to integrate well, and we're beginning to see exactly what he's capable of. So yeah, he'll be in and around the squad again.
It's Fulham and Scott Parker this weekend, David. And of course, many West Ham fans have got great memories of Scott Parker. I think he's a player you tried to sign once at Everton. What are your memories of that, and what have you made of his developing managerial career so far?
Well, I think first of all, he had a brilliant football career, and he's chosen to go into management. And the more young managers we get in, the better. And I think especially getting young British managers managing the clubs in the Premier League is really important. So he done great to get them promoted last year, and he'll have a tough task in the Premier League, but his career was very good, and he'll take a lot from that and get into management. It's a big help as well. You'll have a knowledge of what's required. So we wish him a lot of luck, but obviously that will be after tomorrow's game.
And just finally from me, all about the pressure, of course, of managing Manchester United. What do you make of the pressure that Ollie's under right now?
All managers are under pressure at different levels. Manchester United has probably more pressure than any club in the world. And it comes with the job. We all know exactly what happens if we don't win enough games.
Thanks, Jeremy. Lindsay?
Hi, David. Do you motivate the team differently when you're playing teams towards the bottom of the table?
No, I think we would try and be the same all the time. I think we're trying to get consistency, whether it be teams at the top or teams who might be considered near the bottom. But obviously, it's more to do with your tactical thoughts on the games might change slightly, but overall, I hope I'm no different. I think I would try to motivate in the same way every week.
Given the tough fixtures that you have come through, are you seeing this as a great opportunity now with Fulham, then Sheffield United, to put 6 points on the board?
Yeah, well, I wish I could say it as easy as you do. That's for sure. It's a lot harder than that. But what I would say is that we've come through. We've been away at Arsenal, been away at Tottenham, been away at Liverpool, been away at Leicester in 4 out of our 7 games, and you only need to look at where those clubs are in the league now or where they've been in the last season to realise how difficult a period we've had. So, and included in that, we've had Man City at home as well. So we've had a really, really difficult period of games. So I think every game in the Premier League's got its level of difficulty. We need to try and go into the games we've got coming up positive. Continue to play as well as we've done and score the goals we have. I think for me the big thing is it's the goals we've tried to score and look like scoring, I should say. And if we can continue to keep brushing up on our defensive side of it, hopefully we'll pick up some points.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Lindsay. Ian?
Hi David, how are you?
How are you doing? Okay?
Good, thank you. I think I'm going to start by picking up on that point as well. I mean, most people probably thought that at the beginning of the season, you'd arrive at this point with very few points on the board. So how do you account for having made such a good start?
Well, I hope it's because of our form, and I hope it's because of the way we've played. But, you know, obviously there's other reasons. You know, some teams have started a bit later, some have had different starts. But I think if you've been to Arsenal, Tottenham, Liverpool and Leicester away from home in the opening 7 games, 4 out of the opening 7 games, you'd have said that would be a tough run of games for any club. So we're pleased with the way it started. I'd have still liked to have picked up a few more points. But the biggest thing for me has been the level of performance has been good. It's also been consistent, and I'm hoping that continues.
You're still without Mikel Antonio, Mark Noble. I know Noble's injury came in training. Cresswell coming back. But in general, a lot of clubs are suffering a lot of injuries right now. In hindsight, and hindsight is a wonderful thing, should we have had 5 substitutes from the start of this season like we had in Project Restart?
Well, I made the point to the press after the game on Saturday night, I think it was, and I made the point that we had voted only to have 5 subs because we felt that a bigger number was always suiting the clubs who have a bigger finances and a bigger squad of players and could go and have more expensive players on the bench and bring them on, which would favour them. But so I recommended to our board that we would vote for 5 subs and not more, or for 3 subs coming on, I should say, and not more. I've got to say, where my mind has changed now is because of player welfare. I don't think I expected so many injuries. I think so many games in such a small period of time, whether it be you being an international player or whether it be that you're in the Champions League or the Europa League, has meant that the programme has been so congested. There's been no parties willing to give up any games, whether it be the Carabao Cup or any other cup competition, or nobody's been willing to give anything up. So that's why now I would actually consider the change, if it was there, that we could have more subs. But I still think it's a benefit to the teams with the bigger squads and probably the bigger budgets as well.
Moving on from that, obviously we've got an international break coming up after this game with Fulham. You're going to have several players going away, and as we saw last time, quite a few players who went away caught COVID-19 or tested positive for COVID-19 or could come back injured. I mean, in terms of the integrity of the Premier League, how difficult does it make it when your players are now going to go away and don't have that rest time?
Well, the word you use is integrity, and I think that was the thing that everybody wanted right from the start, that we had that. What's happened in the first 2 international breaks, the players have returned and none of them have been tested. So you've been able to go and play for your countries and return. Now, in this international break, for whatever reason, all the international players are going to have to be tested. So if we all come back and we find that a lot of the international players could possibly test positive, then it's certainly not helping the integrity of the game that those players may not be able to play in the Premier League games. So for me, that's been a change from the Premier League. We've not been explained exactly why, but it's certainly a change that's coming in, I know, after this international break.
Finally, you mentioned before about Scott Parker, who was 3 times Hammer of the Year and is well thought of with West Ham fans. And it's good to see young British managers. Do you think it's harder these days? I mean, you were a young British manager. You got your chance at Preston and then moving on to Everton. But is it harder these days for a young British manager, or do you think it's easier?
No, I think it's harder. I was really fortunate that I worked for really good owners and really good chairmen who gave me time and allowed me to develop when I made mistakes. And young managers are all going to make mistakes at different times, and they're going to go through bad periods and they need support. And I hope that the young British coaches get those opportunities. A lot of the big jobs in this country go to many of the top managers throughout the world, which is great for our football. But I'd really like to see some of those young British managers get opportunities to work in, for example, say Italy, Spain, Germany, France. So it would be good if we could export some of our young British managers abroad, as well as us bringing plenty of overseas managers to work in our leagues.
Thanks, Ian. Simon?
Hi, David. Just picking up on that, I mean, you obviously went abroad. Do you think it's it's important. I mean, we don't tend to export players or managers. Should managers look wider?
Well, I think the managers do look wider. For some reason, we've not had a massive amount of managers get jobs. And I don't mean that we don't have lots of good British coaches working abroad. We certainly do. But to get the British coaches, we're talking about getting them the jobs in the big leagues. So in Spain, in Italy, in France, in Germany. We don't get that. We might have quite a lot of managers in other leagues throughout the world at different places. But I actually think that the really big leagues, we're not getting enough British managers. And we're quite happy as our country, we're quite happy. Quite often, the first thing we do when a manager loses the job, the job tends to be linked with possibly a lot of managers from overseas. So it would be great if the likes of Scott Parker, Frank Lampard, Steven Gerrard, those managers, and lots of other managers in the lower leagues at the moment who are trying to work up, were given the opportunities.
There's a bit of a kind of almost sniffiness if you talk to Germans or Spanish. They don't think our managers are quite up to it.
Well, I think history would show that we've sent a lot of top British managers out to Spain, for example. But we're very quick in importing them into our league. We're happy to do so, and we tend to bring the very top end ones. So I think we should always be encouraging our managers, especially in the lower leagues. We've got quite a lot of overseas managers in the lower leagues as well now. I still think that we should be trying to give our own British coaches and managers those opportunities.
And thank you. And just finally, just on Haller, he came with a massive price tag. Obviously, you weren't here when he arrived, and there was a lot of expectation. He started quite well, and then he didn't score. How do you feel he's going now? Do you think he can really make an impact in the Premier League?
Yeah, I do. I think it takes time to settle in the Premier League. I think quite often we expect an awful lot, and everybody wants things to happen so quickly now. You make a new signing, you expect them to be in the team, you expect them to be making a difference right away. And you can see it at several clubs. Sometimes it's a little bit of time, it's a little bit of chance to see how things work. So we hope Seb will get his opportunity. It's a big chance for him to show exactly what he can do, show why West Ham value them so highly. And also, I've got to say, he's got a great reputation, Seb Haller, throughout Europe. His goals in Germany were excellent at Frankfurt. So let's hope he can bring that to West Ham.
Thanks, Simon. Jack?
Hi, David. Just following up on that bit on Seb. Is this the sort of game that you think would suit him more? You've played a lot of games recently where you've been playing on the counter against the sides that you reeled off earlier. Now, against a club further down, you're probably going to have a bit more of the ball and be playing in and around and off Seb. Is this the sort of game where he can thrive?
Well, I would hope that I don't need to categorise him, Jack, in that he can only play in a certain type of game. So I would hope not. We want to try and bring players because we're going to always be up against good quality opposition. And I'm sure probably in Germany he came up against the likes of Bayern Munich, Dortmund, who are top teams in Europe, and and played in those games for Frankfurt. So I don't want to put him in any category. But what I do want to do is I want to see a big, wholehearted, committed centre forward who we know can contribute to the team. We'll get the makings of a good team, and I want Seb to be part of that.
Thanks. Cameras off.